The biggest impediment to my sleep recently has actually been diving into TikTok while I'm high.
That's a
And like,
bad thing.
it's great. It's fantastic. It's the perfect distraction. Like I can watch
It's
fucking
fantastic. It's the perfect
TikToks
distraction.
until like
Like,
3
I
in
can-
the fucking morning and laugh my ass off, especially it's just you're not worried about shit.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Metashow.
Hear anything. And welcome to the special Fireside edition of the Metashow. Hello, everybody. I am Brisker Ball. I am your host alongside the Matani, Merkel Chen, and Jintan today. Gentlemen, we're chilling out.
There's
not
actually
lot
a
to talk
fucking
about.
fireside. I like. There's
gonna do
literally a fire. I didn't know this until I'm now looking on the screen over here and seeing that there's actually a fire. So we decided. I also have changed where I'm doing this from like this computer over here to this computer over here. So I'm like, anyway, it's going to be a hot mess today, guys. The whole idea is basically we've decided that instead of having just not doing meta shows when there's not enough to talk about, right? Like sometimes the galaxy is just relatively quiet. And we've canceled shows before because we didn't have like a full roster of stuff to do. That, you know what, fuck it, let's just do a fireside. So it's a Fireside Sweatpants edition. I don't know if everybody else is wearing sweatpants, but I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly how casual this is. I don't know if you can even see this shit. But yeah, I'm wearing got my sweatpants on, and we're all just kind of showing off some trouser here. And I'm delighted to see that we actually have like a fireside graphic there. Brisk is
nobody
muted
can hear
again,
a word
apparently.
I can say. I want to thank Manic Velocity because he's the one that made the fireside for us. Life Shifter and I had put together one, and it was so awful that Marana said she would fire everybody on the show if we actually used it, so he had to put it together. So Manic, thank you. You are the man. I appreciate it.
Okay, so basically what we want to do today is we're just going to shoot the shit for an hour or whatever, and we have like a couple of topics we can talk about, like but a lot of times we say Cool Kids Club, you can ask questions at the last 15 minutes of the show, but then by the time that we get to the last 15 minutes of the show, usually like we're involved in a discussion, we'll ask like one or two questions, and we do fireside chats all the fucking time in the Imperium. And we're like, what, screw it. Let's get some cool people together that we like, and we can run our mouths and see what happens. And hopefully, can you guys hear me? Just to make sure, like nobody can hear Brisk because he's constantly muted. But
I'm pain in the ass. I fixed it. You guys are okay. I'm the one that's jacked up, so don't worry.
All right.
You're good. You're
good. Yeah. So we've got Jin Tan here in his dollar bill and his American flag. And where are you based anyway? Because I know that you get this all the time. Like you're all like dollars and money in America. And
yeah, I actually just live in England.
That's what makes it awesome. That's why it's funny.
Yeah, I've told the story about the flag a bunch of times, but it's some like close personal friends who I met through EVE Online. They actually invited me to go over to Texas and be the groomsman in one of their weddings. So I went over and did that a couple of years ago, and they made sure I took home an American flag with me.
A little known fact: I was born in Houston, Texas. Actually, that's where I spent the first 10 years of my life. So,
Mark, are you on mute? Did we turn you off for the show?
Absolutely not. I'm a professional, and I know what I'm doing.
I like it. So, all right. So, Jen, since we can talk about whatever we feel like. So, if there's anything you guys want to talk about it. But I'm excited to see that you're now part of Brave, and since you were in it, then you went to Trigger Happy, you've been in Pravi, now you're in Brave. What's the deal? What happened? When did you go over there?
You're a core popping little slut, aren't you, Jin?
Yeah, I am. No, I just I originally came to Init because it was my kind of old corporation from Provi. Basically left Providence and ended up joining Init. And ever since then, I kind of have just wandered around the universe, been looking for a place that really excites me and makes me want to play EVE Online, basically. I've just been going around. Trigger Happy during the early days was fucking real. Like, that really got me back into EVE Online again. But after Kendar left, the kind of culture of the Alliance shifted a bunch, so I ended up moving to Brave because Duncast, if I wanted to, like a few months ago, wasn't interested then, but I'm interested now, and I figured, hey, if there's any kind of player that can remind you what you forgot was cool about EVE, new players are that kind of, they always have that energy. If you're like explaining to some people and letting them have fun doing the very basic things in EVE, and you can facilitate that, I think people underestimate just how much of a drive that can give you sometimes. So it's
the Incosis effect, basically.
Yeah.
I love it when Incosis is in fleets because he is the most
Shoban
exuberant person that I know. He's very excited about everything. So that's cool. So all right, so it looks like the first thing you did when you went back to Brave, Jen, was and yes, I pronounce it Jin Town. That's what I do.
It's fine.
I'm not gonna be a yin guy. You went over and blew up Trigger Happy guys. That's pretty awesome. I like it when you guys go back and smack your old crew up. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I hadn't been on a fleet. It was a really fun fight, actually. We got record numbers in my kind of Spectre fleets, which are just what I run for fun. And we were running Malers, and they came at us with like a much smaller but much more well-developed Ferox comp. They had about 30 people. We had 75. So it was this really slow, grindy fight where we were trying to swap between different sensor damp types and wheedle our way in. And we actually eventually did manage to catch them out, killed a bunch of Drake Navy issues, and they had to disengage because they couldn't break us. But I love fights like that. I got to give them props for actually engaging on it. Obviously, no one ever wants to really fight outnumbered, so I have to appreciate it. But yeah, it wasn't any like serious business fight or anything.
Yeah, that's one of the things that always drives me crazy is when you take a fight that you know you probably are going to lose, and you take it anyway just to have fun, and you get dunked. It happens. And the other guys like mock you for taking why did you even take that fight? Well, we just gave you a good fight. Why are you whining? Don't be whiny winners. That's one of the things I love in this game. It's so often you see the people that won acting more salty than the guys that lost.
There's a term for that, and I didn't realize this until, I don't know, it just popped up in the discourse in the last year or so, and I'm old and slow and whatever. But the term for that I think is brilliant is cry bullies, right? Like
Cry
the
bullies. I
cry
like
bullies.
it.
So they're
I like
basically
it.
like they want to bully you, but if they fail at it, or if something goes the wrong way or whatever, they cry about it and immediately become like victims. And like there's a bunch of people who do that shit because they feel like their penises shrank or something because they lost a fight in a video game or things didn't go whatever. But like the super insecure dudes are often going to be doing the cry bully thing, and I think it's hilarious because if you call them cry bullies, then they get really fucking mad because you're pointing out that they're being little bitches and they can't handle that. So yeah, when you're dealing with motherfuckers like that, just call them cry bullies and see what happens. Just sort of poke at them, and there you go. I'm going to be like really vulgar this show because
well, why not?
I've been in like serious business like mittens mode for like the last like 3 hours, and I'm just like normally I sit up in my chair and I've got my suit on, whatever. Now I'm just like whatever. I'm kind of curious also, like just what are some of the people are getting kind of weird on the internet. Like we talked about this, more normies are on the internet now than ever before. And we're starting to see people like posting horny on main. Like, again, I mentioned this before, like you're starting to see like e-girls actually talking to the reply guys. There's an epidemic, a plague of simping. Things are getting weird. So
dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Exactly. So one of the things I would like to see from people in chat is like just if any wacky stories of people like doing exceptionally weird, like dumb shit in Eve as like everybody goes fucking insane. I am kind of eager to see sort of the cyber apocalyptic madness go off. Because yeah, I think that especially in like in the next couple of weeks, like Eve is just going to go fucking batshit because people are trapped in their houses. They got cabin fever. They're horny. They're running out of drugs. Like it's going to be wild.
Now I'll tell you, I you've been doing this a lot. How long have you been self-quarantined, self-isolated?
I didn't leave my house for 27 days, and then I made a supply run to a Asian grocery store, Mad Max style, yesterday, and that worked out really well because white people are scared of Asian grocery stores because they're stupid and racist, and you can get all the supplies you need in a very safe environment as long as you're using PPE. So, pro tip there.
I'm on day 17, so I've left my house 3 times. I went to the grocery store, I went to the gun store to get some ammo, and I went to Best Buy because I'm a nerd, so I have to get like the last bit of stuff that I needed to get in. And I did that. I want to say that was like 16 days ago or so. Like I want to say like 3 or 4 days after all the stuff really got crazy. And I have to admit, I thought I was like the super nerd, like I can handle not going anywhere and not doing anything, and I'll just sit here and play video games and have a good time. But damn, it's getting. I kind of want to go outside. Beyond my backyard or beyond like walk around the neighborhood. It's getting pretty hairy up here. So I never thought I would say that.
The extroverts are not okay. So like you got to see some of the extroverts are okay, and I'm technically an extrovert. If we're gonna get into like wacky personality psychology, astrology shit that I love, but one of the things that I thought was just really fucking funny is again the audio was kind of on when we were doing the pre-roll here, and I was talking about TikToks, right? Because like what I'll do at like 3 a.m, I just stay up and watch fucking TikToks all night while I'm high as balls on edibles, and it's awesome. But you can see people will be like quarantine day 3, and I realized that the extroverts were not okay because there's this TikTok trend of people doing things with gummy bears, and one of the extroverts was like on their 3rd day of quarantine was so like going batshit insane that they literally made a model like big like Killers concert, like arena concert with like thousands of gummy bears on their kitchen and made a fake stage, and they basically made an extrovert arena to try to just like imagine people and imagine crowds. And I'm like, these guys, they are not going to be able to handle this. Like, I mean, I'm a fucking turbo nerd and I run a space empire, so like I talk to people all day online, and like I see people in the real world too, but most of my socialization is online because I want to be in my little wizard's tower where I can control all my shit and do what I want to do all day and live my life my way. And so for me it's throw me in the fucking briar patch, right? I'm like, I talk to all my friends online anyway, and I mostly only hang out with my girlfriend and a couple of my friends I play D&D with here in Madison, and like the goon meets, and that's cool. But wow, people are so speaking of people that may or may not be okay, I know that Merkelchin is a professional and he has been sitting there and being very quiet, but I also know that Merkelchin is probably one of the most people oriented people that we have on the show right now. So, this is Alex. How are things over there, Tim?
Alex, Tim, thanks for asking. I appreciate it. I'm like, if human beings were like a herd of gazelles, I would be the one that in the movie sees the lions coming way ahead of time and is trying to alert my friends to trouble. So a situation like what the world, the universe is experiencing right now is very unsettling for me, because my entire point and purpose in life is to bring consensus among humanity. And this is a time of great discourse and uncertainty. So it's really, really disturbing to me. And professionally speaking, I work on like frontline healthcare. So we're kind of face tanking everything that's going on right now. Just all the BS that you hear about in the news, no testing kits, no PPE, no ability to handle our business in like a reasonable way, such that you would expect. It's kind of gnarly, but at least as far as a leader of humans thing is concerned, it is a nice exercise for me, my company, our management to kind of go through just to see if we can actually hack it. And the beauty of it was, if you had asked me like 2 months ago, could we get this big giant, organization to like a remote status by next year, I would have said that's absolutely impossible. And then we did it in a weekend where it was just like, boom, we're doing it, we're out of here, get everybody out of the headquarters and stuff like that. So learn some important lessons. I think that hard times probably bring out, not everything is good, but there's some silver linings that you can at least look to, where I've learned a lot. I think our company's learned a lot. And I think the human experience itself, boy, we're going to look back at years like 2019, where coming out of 2019, we would have all been like, oh my God, what a shit show that year was.
Oh,
but
God.
in
Right.
Remember
retrospect,
2017? Right.
Yeah,
2017 was the same way. Oh my God, 2017 was so
year.
bad.
Again, it's
Bitch,
not as
hold
bad
my
as this
beer.
shit, but hey.
Yeah, now those are the golden times in the long ago, and hopefully we'll get back to them sometime soon.
Don't worry, the stock market's already there.
Yeah, we're back to 2015 levels. So. Mark, would you say that you are the best consensus builder in the game?
A lot of people say that. I'll leave that to them to say. I hear that quite a bit.
I'd say
really,
it probably is actually, like, unironically. I know you're like making a joke about Bigley and Bestis and stuff like that, but that is actually one of Merkelchen's like special skills, and he's really, really, really good at it. And there's not much consensus around. Like, I think we've managed to actually create a consensus in a lot of areas by shooting. I create consensus by usually shooting the dissent. That usually works.
That's a very good way to make things work as a space dictator. I think that works.
Oh man, what the fuck? Oh yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah, Flying Fuck here is saying. I recall Merkelchen claiming that he pisses consensus. I forgot that. That's true. That is an actual Merkelchen line. Is that he pisses consensus. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like the exact opposite of my skill set. Like I'm not exactly Mr. Consensus Builder, and it's a pretty damn handy skill. But yeah, besides talking about like virus stuff in the world exploding, we have. Has anything happened in Eve? Like, I mean, we've got like the moon stuff, and I hate talking about moons, and I've been talking about the virus shit for like ever now. So I'm sure we'll get back on. And if people, again, in chat, like if there's stuff that you guys want, like when we're doing like a fireside chat kind of thing, like we literally have no plan for this show. Like we have a bullet point list of like a potential like story time with Uncle Mitten segment, because it's something that our producers have been asking us to do for a while now. And we even have like a cool graphic for that and stuff, but like we haven't picked a thing I want to talk about, and we might not even do that. So like if y'all have like questions or things you want to talk about, or just stupid shit, like we do this in fireside chats for the Imperium all the fucking time. But we've never done like a real fireside chat for the Metashow, and it's like a super free form kind of thing. So if you guys wanted to, have Jintan tell a story about something or other, or ask Merkelchen whatever, or just go nuts, because we're just running our mouths. How about Villy crying about Tappy being called Tappy? That was an unforced error.
That was to me one of the funniest things that I've seen in a while, and I love Villy, but I'll tell you. The number one rule of schoolyard fighting and name calling and stuff is don't ever tell the guy that says the name that you don't like him saying it.
Never let him see a sweat, right? Never let him see a sweat.
It's like the number one thing you never do. In fact, what you do is the way to get them to stop doing it is to embrace the thing and like own it. And
That's
then
what
it's
Sapporo
not as
did
funny
last
anymore,
episode.
so they don't do it anymore. If you really don't like it, just say, yeah, that's great. You know, it's just...
Yeah, like, can you imagine, like, okay, so for people who didn't see this, it's not really a big deal. And I don't want to be like, oh, we're mad at Billy about this, aren't going to war.
No, this is
That's
just
whatever,
funny.
we don't give a
It's
shit.
just
But,
funny.
like, he went on to Crying in Stations the other day. Credit to Tuzzy for that nickname. And he was... So when we're not in suits, like, I know this is going to be a big shock, and when I'm not in like formal mittens mode, I'm a raging asshole. So, you know, I'm just sort of gloves off. Here we go. So
I would never have guessed that. By the way.
Shocking news to everyone. But yeah, Billy went on to Crying in Stations, and he was talking to some, I don't even know, Chaucer or whatever. It was some Try guy or Peel guy. I don't even know who the fuck this dude was.
Chaucer, I think it was.
Yeah, and he was calling Legacy or Test Tappy, and Billy like went ham on him. Like, why are you calling us Tappy? You should call us this, the other thing. And I just can't imagine what would happen if I went on a Fireside or on a show like this and was like, you know, don't call us the CFC, we're the Imperium now, guys, as opposed to like, lol, bitches, you're going to end up calling us the Imperium just like you're going to call it the Casino War, and you're going to like it because I'm going to make you do it whether you like it or not. That's my attitude. And also, my penis isn't going to shrink if somebody calls the Imperium the CFC, right? Like, there's not some sort of like a magical thing. Oh no, people I don't care about on the internet are saying things about me that I don't like. My manhood has been impacted. So it was like, you know, if people, now that people know that you can call Test Tappy and basically trigger Billy because he did it on Crying in Stations, now it's like, it's the Streisand effect, right? It's just going to be everywhere.
Everywhere. It's
because who cares? Like,
no, everyone's
Test,
going to start calling them Tappy
like,
again.
Whatever. The only reason they're going to call them that now is because Billy publicly has admitted that it bothers him, right? So, whatever.
Look, it's the same reason why I always laugh and make jokes whenever anybody, like, we go into Rage and the HK guys are all there and they're like, oh, look, goons are here. I don't even argue anymore. I'm just like, yes, in it, we are the largest goon.
Anybody that they don't like, you know, is a goon. And, you know, just like,
that's
whatever,
it.
just
fo
and local.
Everybody's goons. So it's fine. Hey, you know what? We're all goons. So I just embrace that stuff. It makes me laugh. I remember when I was a little kid, I'd get picked on. They're like, are you a nerd? I'm like, yeah. What's wrong with that? And they would shut up, and they didn't have an answer to it. But if I had said, no, I'm not a nerd, I'd look like an idiot. So that's the thing. Anyway, but I'm sure Billy has a method to his madness, that there's got to be some funny reason why he got all upset about that. But
it's just like, you know, it's schoolyard name calling 101. And, you know, normally by this point, like, we're all pretty experienced at that. I think that EVE Online has taught us, you know, elementary school level of trolling in the bare minimum. So there you go. So actually, Billy here is in chat, which is cool because, like, seriously, we're just winging this shit. Like, we're talking about Billy saying something dumb on Crying in Stations, and we're probably making Matter all angry because now he knows that I call it Crying in Stations, which I didn't call it until just a couple of days ago. This is totally fucking improv, guys. Like, I'm actually checking Jabber to make sure I'm not causing diplomatic incidents.
Well, hey, I'll tell you this. Regardless of what you want to call it, the one that I have liked the fact that Talking in Stations has been doing this quarantine in stations thing where people just talk for hours at a time during the day. And that has gotten me through a couple of days of random sitting here waiting for the fucking Senate to do something. So that was kind of interesting. And that's where that whole Billy thing happened. They just had these random shows where people just sit there and talk.
Oh, so that wasn't like a main episode. That was, and you know, that's a cool thing.
Like a middle of the day thing.
This.
Like a random middle of the day. Billy just happened to pop into comms and started talking to everybody. It was just kind of funny. And yes, my wife is calling me a nerd, and that is correct. We are all nerds.
No shame in that. I'm a fucking turbo nerd.
So we are nerds. It's
but
okay. All right, Mike Flood wants to know, why did I bring an active tank dread to this fight? Let's talk about this.
Nerd out.
This is funny, okay? All right. So there was a big old school dread bomb in EC TAC. I want to say, what day was it? Was it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, some earlier day this week? I don't remember. All the days run together when you don't have to go to work, or at least when you're working from home. And essentially, up in Syndicate, if you guys look at the map, and I don't want to pull it up because all my buttons aren't working anyway. All the Northwest that used to be GOTG is like all United Federation of Conifers now, and so it's all Pinecone space, and they are pretty heavy in Syndicate. So we were just screwing around, messing with the guys, and went over there and started reffing one of their jump gates, one of their Ansiblex jump gates, and it was on final timer, and we were going to try to pick a fight and cause a big ruckus. So it was us and goons, and I think there were other folks, but I'm not 100% sure who else was there. And we baited out a dread fight, and then we got one. And I had 2 dreads, and one of the problems was all the dreads that I happened to have sitting around on Brisk, on my main, I had 3. I had a Nagelfar, which was Hall Fit. I had a Phoenix, which was also Hall Fit. And I had a Zernitra, which I was definitely not going to drop because I knew we were going to lose all these dreads. It was just inevitable. It was going to be a big dread fight, like an old school dread fight where we're going to lose it. So, and also, I have this running gag with pine cones. They have been killing me all the time ever since like a year and a half ago. We were doing a Blops fleet, and we tried to Blops onto their Ravens because we didn't know it, but the guy that was leading the Blops fleet happened to be a spy. And we landed on top of these Ravens, and I was in a very expensive Widow, and we all just face melted. They just blew us the fuck up. So I have this running gag of pine cones killed by Widow, and I bring it up every time, and I give these guys a hard time about it. So they like it. They laugh about it. I'm always primary in every fight. I know I'm going to die. So I'm trying to figure out, what ship am I going to bring to this thing on Brisk? I had my alt, who was in another dread, and that one was generally fit, but it also had an active tank just because I had one lying around. I thought it'd be funny. So I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to really worry about this. We got to get moving. We're in the process of doing this big fight. There are dreads everywhere. Jay's got a dread fleet. Jay Amazingness was there with his guys. We had a nightmare fleet in subcaps coming, and the other guys had called a Bad Phone PL and Pan Fam and those guys. They had an Eagle fleet, and they had Munins or something else that they were in, and then they had their dreads. So I just said screw it. So I had this Haw Phoenix that was designed for like solo PvP that has been sitting there in my hangar for 2 years and I never used the damn thing. And I said, fuck it. I'm just going to lose the thing. It doesn't matter. And it'll be funny because it's totally fit wrong. So the only thing I did was I took the Haw guns off and put on anti-cap guns. So that was it. So not only does this thing last like 3 milliseconds in the fight, I also happen to get bumped when we hit the Sino and landed. So I'm like heading all towards these guys. I think I got like 3 cycles of the fucking shield booster off, and I'm just gone. And I just started laughing. And the funny thing is, Jay was also in a Phoenix, and he died like 4 seconds after me. So I got to say, hey, you know what? I got primaried before the FC. There you go. That was great. So that's why I was in the dread. It was for memes and for fun. It wasn't because I gave a shit. Now I have gotten crapped on. Some people think that I should fame tank all of my stuff, which is probably not wrong. My Titans are fit that way because I know that I'm gonna get blown the fuck up every time I'm on field. But it's a dread. I don't care. It was a 3-4 billion dread, and it'd been sitting there. I never used it. Hopefully I get SRP. They probably won't even let me have the SRP because it was fit fucked up. But we'll see. But that was the story. That's the story. But EC Tech was a fun fight. It was great. Now, and I had to laugh because I was teasing Alpha Star and some of the other the Horde guys that were there, because all these guys were like, why did you guys take this fight? Who gives a shit about an Ansiblex? Why does this matter? Why are you... I'm like, guys, sometimes we just want to have fun. And we hadn't had a big dread brawl like that in ages. And we're all sitting on these caches of dreads. I've got dreads all over fucking New Eden that I know I'm never going to use. And I don't want to move them because it's too much of a pain in the ass. So I get an opportunity to lose a dread, I'm going to take it. I don't give a shit how it's fit. So that's it. But we won. We killed the fucking Ansiplex. It died. Yes, it cost like, I don't know, what was it, like 500 bill? But hey, op success. But it was fun. It was a good fight. And I like it. And I like UFC. They fight all the time. Those guys, as much as I give them shit and tease them, and Pinecones killed my Widow and my Draugr and my Phoenix and my Rev, and it probably killed like at least 20 billion worth of my shit. I like those guys. They're fun. They actually fight. So that's the story. And I'm going to shut up.
You sound like you need a hug.
It's okay. I'm used to losing stuff. I get primaried every fight. Now, literally, like nowadays, I've come to the point where I have to bring my own Logi just to rep me, because if I don't, I'm never going to get prepped in time so that I don't die.
Now you know what being an FC is like.
Right?
Except
Exactly.
without any of the upsides.
I don't get any of the fun stuff, though. I don't get any of the credit. I'm still an F1 monkey. I just happen to have Logi with me, so I have to triple box every day.
Having a chat actually with while you were telling that story, I was having a discussion with your wife about canned fruit. So I've never really, I'm like a pinkies up, like hyper privileged asshole, and so I've never really eaten things out of cans before. And I have to say,
not even like Chef Boyardee.
No, like canned fruit is like really fucking like I don't know about canned like diced tomatoes goes into things, but canned fruit, I'm like this is so much more convenient than like fresh fruit because I can just leave it on a shelf and I don't have to worry about I need to eat my grapefruit, and also I don't have to do any work to cut. Like I love grapefruit, but I'm lazy. I am really lazy, and canned grapefruit is fucking wonderful, and also canned pears because it basically tastes like pear nectar. So those are some of my like isolation survival piece of advice. And
So basically, your reaction to the coronavirus is just learn about poor people's food.
No comment.
I would just like to say that some of the best food is poor people food. So, and I also like to say, as always, my wife is in the chat making fun of me for losing ships. So she might as well join PL at this point or maybe HK, because they rail on me about that too. So it's fine, but I have to laugh. Ramen is good. Chef Boyardee is good. I got a whole freaking pantry full of SpaghettiOs because I eat that shit. What can I say? I could get better food, but that's comfort stuff from when I was a kid. I like it. Mark, do you eat any of that shit?
I'm so glad that you asked.
Because I want to know.
Yeah, this is where I hope. Are we at the part of the show where I go off about keto for 25 minutes? Yes.
You can do whatever you
go
like.
for it.
No, we have time.
No. Listen, in a pandemic, yes, I will eat literally anything. But when I have a family, obviously, and we're trying to do this in a smart and orderly fashion where we go through the fresh food first, then we work through the freezer stuff, obviously leaving like the dried goods and sundries for the end of times when we're pulling out the AR-15 bullets from the vault downstairs. We want to do this proper if we're going to have a pandemic. So as a dad, I end up just eating whatever's left that everybody else is eating. So I don't get to select what I'm eating very often.
That's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, right. You just become like
you eat whatever's put in front of you. There's no choice.
I'm like a glorified remora, just kind of like, like whatever shit falls off the table or someone else's plate is what I'm dealing with. So yeah, that's I'll eat anything.
Wow, I am so glad I don't have kids. I'm so glad on every level. But
now, Burke, how are you doing in terms of the homeschool stuff? Are you guys doing that too? Because you got two little ones, right?
Yeah. So that I in the state that I live in, it's pretty slick. I'm not dealing with that a ton, to be completely honest with you, because my work is essential and I have to continue to go to work most days. But they've got a pretty slick e-education system. I think they saw this coming. I remember when we were starting to get ready to leave Iceland maybe 4 weeks ago from the CSM summit, I was already getting emails from the school district that's like, we're getting our backup plan ready to go right now. So it's easy. It's basically just my kid sits down, there's a Zoom meeting with their teacher, they talk about stuff for an hour. I mean, she's even doing her violin lessons over like Skype or something like that. So the kids are much more ready for this. I think, Mittens, you might have been the one that was talking about this the other day, how we've had to sort of get our parents teched up and ready for this shit now.
Yeah, trying to teach my piano teacher, who is like 74 years old, being like, okay, we're going to install Zoom, right? And like, he's like an old jazz dude and he's 74. And so getting okay, we're going to set up webcams and we're going to point them at a piano and then we're going to have multiple, it's a process. It really is a process.
Yeah. I think that we built a new house a couple years ago, so we've got one of those big kind of like walk-in pantries that I would suspect that at any given moment there's probably 6 months of food in it in cans and things like that. But my wife is totally out of control, so now this COVID thing could go on until 2028 and we would be money. I'm sure of it. So
look, that's the thing. Like, everybody's laughing, about when I say the three places I went to, the grocery store, the gun store, and Best Buy. Why did you go to the gun store, Brisk? You can't shoot the virus. Yeah, but I can shoot the fucking looters who are coming for the food that I have. So that's why I went to the gun store.
It really just depends on where you are. Like, again, in like Madison, Wisconsin, like there's really no need to hit the gun store. But like if I lived in like a suburb of DC or something like that, like that's the thing. Like, of course, I went to school in Baltimore for 4 years, and basically, like, I'm just going to say, guys, The Wire is a documentary. The Wire is not really a work of fiction.
That
It's
is my
all based
hometown,
on
and
real
he speaks
shit.
the truth.
Exactly. That David Simon like wrote basically what he learned working as a journalist, assigned, and also Homicide: Life on the Streets. Highly underrated
That book,
show.
if you guys have not read his Homicide book, that is one of the best books I've ever read. I must have read it a dozen times. It is so freaking good. So Homicide: A Year on the Killing Streets by David Simon. Read that.
I have had to embarrassingly make apologies for many things in my life, but one of the ones that is difficult to explain to people that haven't like lived in Baltimore for any period of time is how Hun is a gendered thing. You just call people
Totally.
Hun. And I remember it was once extremely awkward where I was talking to a European woman who I was not like flirting with or anything. It was actually like a business professional kind of discussion. And I said, we were out at a bar and I was not flirting with her. She was not flirting with me. And I was just like, something, Hun, whatever. And then I'm like, no, Baltimore, you can look this up. I'm sorry. She didn't get mad at me, but I felt very awkward because of sort of accidental hunning is a thing.
It's a thing. It happens all the time.
It really is.
And you just have, that's how you know you're in Baltimore when they call you, what do you want to eat, hun? It's a standard thing.
It is what it is.
Everybody starts sounding like Marty Bass from Channel 13. But, so, Antheron, the poetry about the drug culture, the corner was David Simon. He wrote that too. He wrote a book, after he wrote the Homicide book, he wrote a book about a drug corner, like a year on watching this drug corner in Baltimore, and that's how that started. So that's why like this is real stuff. So I feel bad. I mean, granted, the Western is already screwed up, so they probably aren't too bad. But I think Baltimore was like the city I was watching the most closely because I figure if anywhere is going to riot,
Baltimore's going to go up. Like, there's no question. Baltimore's going to I mean, maybe not
to the point that the mayor has to ask
like,
people, please stop shooting each other. You guys are crowding the hospitals. We need space for COVID patients.
No, it's going to be a hot mess over there.
That's my hometown.
What a fucking yikes.
The title of the book was The Corner. So
I'll have to check it out. I actually haven't. I've been like, my book reading has been American Nations. I keep talking about this on Twitter, and my stupid Twitter account is where I have my horrible political opinions and crap goes because we have a no politics rule in the Imperium for very good reasons. But like, it's been fascinating. It's like a better version of Albion Seed, and it describes how basically North America has like 11 different sociocultures within it. And like, I never looked at anthropology because I took a couple of anthropology classes in college. I was like, this is stupid shit. I don't care. And now here I am, like, anthropology is actually really interesting because of cultural geography. And you can actually map it to like maps of voting patterns. And like, there's actually something here that's real. And, it really makes a lot of sense to explain how schizophrenic our country and North America in general appears, because it turns out that it's not really a country. There's all these different like micronations that have different material cultures and a whole bunch of fascinating things that explain why basically my life has been so confusing, because as I have, I've basically lived in different countries as part of North American culture, from like the deep South to Tidewater to now like Yankeedom and like all this other crazy fucked up shit. So, yeah.
So I would say, all right. So first of all, I'm happy that you're reading that stuff because we talk all the time. So I was happy that you recognize that the culture in South Carolina is different from the culture in Tidewater, Virginia, where my people are from.
Yeah.
So that we're not like the crazy slavers down
Barbados,
there. The Barbados slavers. But,
which is the culture that I grew up in, to be fair.
Exactly. That's what you had to deal with. Look. I am, despite my real life last name being German, I'm like 60%, like mostly Scots-Irish, and my people are all Appalachian Hill Country folks in Southern Virginia.
So you're a borderlander by background.
Oh, totally. I mean, we were right on the line. We were the old frontiersmen. The first folks I can trace back my original family members in Virginia to like 1627, but everybody else came over later, and frankly, like. It's just. I try to explain that the cultures are different, and that's why I'm up here in Northern Virginia now, but all my family is in Southern Virginia, so I've always felt like I'm more of a Southern Virginian than one of these Nova guys, and we get crapped on for being there's Northern Virginia and the rest of Virginia as how we say it politically around here. So it's just a very different culture clash, but There's just some of that stuff, it gets in your DNA and you deal with it. But I'm telling you right now, back on other stuff. The Homicide book, read it. It's a little dated. It's 1987 when he wrote it, so things have obviously changed. And frankly, a lot of stuff in the department in Baltimore Homicide changed because of that book, because it was such a big deal. They changed a bunch of stuff. But, you know, it's one of the best written books ever. And I think it would be totally your style of book. You'd really like it. And then what else? Somebody was asking me something about how often do I get to the gun range with my guns? I'll be honest, a long time. I would say when I was in college, I would go every weekend, like to the point that they offered me a job because I was there so much. But I couldn't take it because I didn't have a car. I was going with friends. But I say nowadays, if I get out there once every 6 months or so, it's okay. There's an outdoor range near my house, and there's a couple of indoor ranges around the area. The one that I used to go to was way on the other side of town, so it's hard to get to now. But I like to go there. And I used to live like walking distance to the NRA range at the NRA headquarters in Fairfax. But that's a little far out now too. But I could go there if I wanted to. So,
Alex, hey, this is Tim. Hun, Brisk is triggering me right now.
What are you being triggered? I'm
Tim, this is
guns.
Alex.
People ask me about guns. What do you want?
Tim, this is Alex. What would you like us to talk about? I can go off about cultural geography and being a proper Southern gentleman who happened to go to the right schools and come from a proper background. But
I
guys,
feel like
this is Brian. We should not leave Aaron out. He should talk too.
Okay, Aaron, I'll bring you in here in a second. I'd like to hear your take on this. I do not believe that a descent into the Lord of the Flies in Virginia or anywhere else thereabouts, maybe Baltimore is an exception, perhaps I'm wrong. I don't think that it is implied or a given. I think we may be okay. I'd like to, at least I'm going to operate under that auspice for the time being. I hope we're okay. Aaron, Tim, are we okay?
I mean, I don't live in America, so I don't know how bad things are over there. All I know is that our prime minister has the virus. That means,
which means everybody in number 10 has the virus as well.
The royal family,
and the Prince of Wales.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think if London goes, that's the way probably the rest of the UK goes.
Well, the thing about like civil unrest and stuff is like I've looked into this, and I don't think that, again, because North America and a lot of these countries have regional cultures that are distinct from the political boundaries in a given area, that different things will happen in different places. Like, you are going to see prison riots in a lot of places. The risk factor for everyone is going to be in a lot of ways whether there's like rent relief, like is there like a pause on rent, and if people are out of money and they're scared, and there's already basically if you live in a place where there have been riots before, you have a logical reason to be worried about riots again, right? But it's not like it's going to be mad fucking max. Like riots are kind of like forest fires. Like it's awful, it's bad. There can be dangerous situations in those localities for a few days, but also crime tends to be very localized. Like you don't really commute far to commit crime. So like if you're worried about stuff like this, instead of being like scared, you can educate yourself. Like you can go watch. Also, it's cool and you're bored and you got nothing else to do besides playing computer games or doing drugs or wanking, is you can go like watch documentaries about the LA riots and like the roof Koreans and some of those amazing battles that happened there. Like that can be instructive if you live in one of those zones. But I don't think the world is not ending. Bad shit's going to happen in some places. Bad shit is not going to happen everywhere. It's really just about trying to assess the ground truth wherever you are about human behavior and the culture that you're operating in. So, yeah.
How are things in the Great Midwest, Merc?
Things are pretty good. I felt like my state was kind of ahead of the curve with things. We closed schools. We were the first one. We were the first one that closed restaurants as well, which is good. Hopefully, we're still kind of in the numbers are very sketchy, getting sketchier, but one would hope now, probably 16, 18 days into this, you'll start to see things be blunted here pretty quickly and all of the isolation stuff start to take effect and prove itself worthwhile.
So since we have nothing else to talk about, besides, whatever we feel like, and I want you to give a pitch for Karma Fleet. I want you to talk about SNS. What are we doing tonight? We're going to have some fun. Talk
Brian,
about our favorite DJ.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, hon. I appreciate it. Listen, so this is
We
the
go
thing.
down the ocean together, Mark. Let's do
Right.
it.
Right. Okay. So, a couple things. I'll get into the Karma Fleet stuff in a minute. Here's just a suggestion. If you find yourself as a leader of humans right now at a time like this, you've got a space empire, whether your corporation has 10 people, 200 people, 2,000 people, whatever. We've been using Netflix Party. It's just a Chrome plugin. I know Chrome is not very vogue. It's not super popular as a browser in the nerd community, but I don't know. I don't really prescribe to a lot of that stuff. I'm a
Wait,
simple
is Chrome
person.
not the go-to? I
Yeah,
always thought it
apparently
was.
not. Hey, listen, we're
What's
old.
the go-to then? I
It
feel like I'm
is
behind
for
the
us.
curve now.
No, it is for us, but I
All
think
right.
the cool kids do something different. But anyway, nice distraction. You just use this little plug-in. It basically timestamps you and all your friends together so you can watch a movie. There's a little chat window in the sidebar where you can bullshit with your buddies. It's super, super fun. We've done it every night for, I think, the past 7 nights now. It's been really successful, and I think people who have appreciated it, because if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing right now, the odds are you're probably getting a little bit lonely and your cat is not talking to you very much anymore, or it's gone the other way around and it's talking a lot. So these are good activities that help sort of keep people busy, give them something to do, give them something to look forward to, having something when you wake up to say, you know what, I don't have to put pants on. I don't have to take a shower. I don't have to get ready today. But 8 p.m. Eastern, me and my friends are going to get together and watch a movie. That's just a nice thing to do. It gives, I don't know, it's just a nice escape, because it's like, even when we put a ban on talking about COVID because we talk about it too much, it still somehow creeps its way into every conversation. It's nefarious, like that, highly contagious shit.
Right?
Yeah,
The conversational topic has a very high R
back
dot.
towards that.
right, exactly. So I don't know. So shifting gears, it's Saturday night. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm the resident DJ for Saturday Night Swarm. It's a fleet that's been happening now for almost 5 years, every single Saturday night without fail. It happens at 9 p.m. Eastern, either 0200 or 0300, depending where we have shifted the United States in daylight savings mode. It's just a drunk fleet. We go out, we screw around, we have a good time together. But it's another one of those things. I think it's just an agenda item on everyone's calendar where they say, you know what? If I'm going out with my buddies, in the long ago when you could do such a thing,
in the before times.
Before.
Yes, right. You can certainly go do that. But if you don't have anything to do that night, guess what? I'll be there. I'll be waiting for you. We'll go have a fun time together, hon. You'll love it. We'll go shoot some people. We'll go get shot. Once in a while, things will go great. Other times, things will go poorly. I try to shake it up. We've got staging systems all around the outside of High Sec Ring around the game. It's just a nice distraction. And I'm fortunate because I think we've been fortunate enough to have Brisk as a regular attendee now for a couple of years. I tell everyone he's the only director in Karma Fleet that's not actually in my corporation. I just found the other day on my computer, Alex, Tim, hi hon, I found the recording of you telling the story of BTAC-R the night that we took the whole fleet out there to go look at the monument, which was just an incredibly cool experience for a lot of people. It was just one of those, it kind of jives with today's theme of story time, because it was one of those where I ran a bunch of totally raging drunk people out to the middle of nowhere. We're looking at this Titan and I'm like, oh, by the way, we've got Mittens coming to talk to you guys, and he'll tell you the story of what happened. It's just sort of an unforgettable moment, and I think over the years we've had dozens of those.
Mark, thank you for that, because now my wife understands why I tell her I have a fleet every Saturday night that I have to do. And she's all like, why can't we hang out on Saturday night? Because I have SNS. All right, now I'm going to push a button, and because we have had this is a segment on the Metashow. We have had prepped. We have not been able to do it because we haven't had a reason to do it, because we've had a lot of content. But today it makes sense, and I think I'd like to at least push this button one time, so we're going to do it. So here we go. See, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Oh God! Now I'm gonna have to do stuff. So
tell us a story, Uncle Mittens. And frankly, what I would like to see, we had some questions for you lined up, but I'd rather find out what's the audience want you to tell a story about.
Okay.
What do you guys want Mittens to talk about?
while people are answering that in chat, I just want to follow up here. Tim Hun, this is Alex, and I just want to say that one of the stories that we should not show in public, but if you really want to blow people's minds, extreme circumstances mean extreme measures. If you really want to fuck with people on a Saturday night, is to find an old recording of the wedding story. Have you inflicted that on Karma Fleet before? You don't even know what the wedding story is.
I'm drawing a blank right now.
That's when I was attending Remedial, the founder of Goonfleet's wedding in Florida in like 2007, and there was a Cracker Barrel involved, and this is before he had his mortgage scam. It was insane early Goonfleet drama involving a bunch of tremendously overweight women going to a Cracker Barrel in Florida, in Orlando.
This sounds amazing.
And it just goes, and that's the part of the story I can talk about here. But we're not going to be telling the wedding story here. There is a recording. It is in the archives. It exists, and that is something for people.
We need to find that.
The Imperium.
We need to find that.
It's a old school one. So yeah, I don't know what people want to hear about. One of the things that one of the challenge thing that I have is that I've been doing this every day for like 15 years. So like people want to hear stories about things that have happened in Goonfleet's history or in Eve's history or like wacky, weird shit that I've been involved in. But I have a big blind spot around me, which is obvious to anyone who saw my shitty goatee back in the day. I clearly have a blind spot about myself, right? So I have no idea what people are actually interested in hearing about crap. So, whatever.
I'm still
I have
waiting.
a
The questions
request.
are they're kind of low.
I've got one. So this year FanFest didn't happen. Can you tell us it? So people are now thinking sort of with nostalgia about Reykjavik, about going to Iceland, about having a fun time. Do you have a snippet that you could give us that's good for public dispersion of something you remember fondly that happened to you in Iceland?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Are you serious?
God, I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, like people like wizard hat jokes notwithstanding, like there have been so many like crazy ass ragers in Iceland. And like one of the things though is that like the last couple of years things have sort of died down. I think that one of the challenges that like vets have, like if you went to FanFest, and sound off if you are in chat, like sound off if you're part of the Cool Kids Club that got to go to the old FanFest when they were at like Laugershallen or whatever the fuck they called that, in that old like ice rink arena back when they had fucking Gaborg, Jamie, my man. There we go, some old school people right here. Where back in the day, old CCP, right? There was this era where a lot of these guys are at Riot or they're at Ubisoft now or whatever. But back when Over was like the man, Nathan Richardson and Ollie Otterson and Stauffer was there, DJ was there. They did insane shit, and they had this sports arena that was like inconvenient to get to from Reykjavik. Like it's in Reykjavik, but it's further outside of town. And they would have FanFest not in Harpa, which reminds me of like a dentist's convention in a lot of ways, like going to Harpa from the old days of the party at the top of the world. Because what would happen is this. Back when there was no rules and they were just making up the whole Eve thing as they went along, like these dudes were just hard partying Eve nerds that had a game that took off. And Lagershallen was basically like a sports hall arena. So they had like, space, like ice rink kind of things that were like, places where you could play indoor tennis or soccer or whatever the fuck. And they converted it on Saturday night of every old school FanFest. They converted like, I don't know, this big open indoor football field into a nightclub. And they got some of the hottest fucking DJ acts that they had in Europe at the time, like Too Many DJs, which is Soulwax, and this was like probably like 2009, 2010, I don't know, something in there. The parties were insane. And because they were having all these like headlining acts from just these amazing fucking DJs, they would let in the Icelandic wildlife, i.e. the people from Selfoss would be allowed to come in. And so you end up with these like Icelandic raver chicks mingling with spaceship nerds at like this wild ass fucking rave party in a fucking converted soccer field over an internet spaceship game. And everybody's on tons of drugs and everybody, people are horny on Maine. And in that situation, Iceland, here's a bunch of random foreigners. Like you would see Eve nerds getting laid like crazy. They didn't know what would happen because suddenly these like the Skinka are attacking them and, clueless Eve nerds going what the hell is this girl wearing basically nothing but leggings going after me? It was madness. It was beautiful. It was just the most insane parties. We would tear the town up and would get into so much trouble, and it was amazing. I mean, we didn't really get in trouble because nobody got arrested or anything like that, but
nobody gets arrested in Iceland.
Yeah, there was just madness. And one of the things I think that the last few years when I've been at Iceland for FanFest, and when it shifted to Harpa, it's more downtown, so it's more convenient to see things. But Harpa is an opera house and a convention center. It is not they haven't converted an area to set up a fucking chess boxing match, right? Old school FanFest was insane. And so we when we started doing Vegas things, that was sort of the kind of thing that our crew was trying to, I think, recreate in the early days when goons were doing it. And I think that sort of party attitude is something that we've sort of missed. But yeah, man, I miss those days. And then what happened?
That reminds me of Vegas. It reminds me of the E-Vegases that we do now, where they have the party at some posh Vegas nightclub, and it's reserved for us for the first 2 hours. And then after the 2 hours, they kick us all out and let the regular people come in. And we're all Eve nerds streaming out of there. And then it's all of the Vegas raving crowd. And it's wow, I'm glad the two of these things do not go together at all. It looks weird.
Watching those worlds collide, kind of like Gandalf coming down the mountain or whatever. You're just sitting there oh, please behave, everybody. Please hold it together.
Don't do anything stupid. Please don't catcall the attractive women. They're going to get you.
I mean, in Vegas, that's definitely a risk. But in Iceland back in the day, my God, we would, just random Eve nerds would be scoring with people that they had no business scoring with, just because they were foreign and they were interesting, and everybody was bored and drunk and just fucked up other guilds, and it was just a rave. It was, and so really I think that things kind of started going downhill on that, because after a while people who did not know how to party complained about the fact that they were bringing the regular Icelandic party crew in to party with the spaceship nerds.
Why would you not want that? I don't get it.
Because some people are little bitches, and
you got to have the cross-pollination. That's
exactly.
Not a bad thing.
And they complained about it, and so then instead of doing what old school CCP would have done and said, eat my ass, we're gonna roll hard. If you don't like it, go hang out in a chill room. You can handle things for introverts that want to have a quiet place to talk and to chat up people that you've met by having a quiet chill zone. And they actually do that at Harpa now for FanFest, when they have FanFest at Harpa, when they haven't forgotten to schedule Harpa. And so you can have a balance. You can have wild parties, and you also have a place for the introverts. But I think there was some turnover at CCP or whatever, and instead of saying no, we're still going to have a crazy ass party, deal with it, and setting up a chill room, they stopped the cross pollination with the wildlife. And half the fun of Iceland used to be to mingle with Icelandic wildlife. I mean, it was because before I moved to Wisconsin, those were the people I was when I moved to Wisconsin, it's a very Scandinavian kind of culture. Madison, Wisconsin has a big street down the middle of it, State Street, kind of like Reykjavik has Lagavegur. So it's sort of a lot of these sort of Scandinavian, lots of Norwegians in Wisconsin, obviously.
You guys got a ton of Norwegians in Wisconsin.
Yep. And so very similar kind of thing. But before I moved to Wisconsin, I would go to Iceland and go, my God, these people, the parties are insane. Euro, rave, drugs. Everybody's an arms race of people trying to wear as little as possible, despite it being nasty and rainy and cold outside. It's just madness everywhere. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And then, we'd go to the Celtic Cross, where they had a room with a coffin in it, and people would be hanging out in this tiny little room with a coffin in the middle of it, and just getting drunk as fuck and crawling all over each other. It was, the in terms of stories from Iceland, people are a lot of times ooh, wizard hat stories, but we got up to some amazing shit, love to club stuff. There was an era in CCP's history where CCP loved to club, and they did it well, and you got everybody together.
Well, I wanted to ask about that. So Jen, you've done a ton of these events, right? Which was the best party town that you did an Eve thing? Because I know I've seen you very happy in Berlin, but I'm wondering if that was the best one. Where did you guys have the best party that you went to?
Berlin's probably actually the worst one. I just was like super stressed
okay.
over the event because nothing was prepared for us. And I was there as a volunteer, so I just ended up getting absolutely wasted as soon as they opened the bar for us, just so I could deal with it. Um, I don't know. It honestly, it probably is Iceland still. Like Amsterdam was fun, but nothing beats getting absolutely stoned and drunk in the middle of Iceland and then going to like a base hunter party. Like I know it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's still better than Amsterdam at the end of the day. Everyone's too stoned out of their mind in Amsterdam to actually do anything. You just end up sitting in one bar and talking for like 5 hours and then falling asleep.
I think I had a different Amsterdam experience than you.
Fair enough.
I haven't been. I'm not an Amsterdam guy, so I've been to Reykjavik. I haven't been to FanFest. This is gonna be my first FanFest. Mark, have you been to FanFest?
No, hun. I've been to Reykjavik many times now just for CSM related stuff, and I'm fortunate enough to have some friends that are locals there, so we get to kind of see the underbelly of things as opposed to like the touristy stuff. So I feel like I've got a nice sample size, but I also, my Amsterdam experience was pretty different. Like I escaped Amsterdam with my life barely. It wasn't like it was not a sedate affair.
Clearly, I need to go harder in the paint next time I go down.
I want to hear Minton's Paris Amsterdam story.
It starts in Amsterdam and it ends in Paris and involves a bullet train and Darius Johnson in Australia. So basically, like there was a goon meet, and also this started a war because this was I think a thing where like Boat ended up getting drunk and hitting on Sort Dragon's girlfriend, and then this was like,
was that this one?
This is the 2012 Bender, right? Like this is like it's like November of 2012. And everybody descends on Amsterdam for like a big like EG and just goons in general meet up in a huge ass party. And we know it's going to be off the rails because we go to like a fucking hostel. Like this is Mr. V and a few of our friends there and DJ. And we meet up at this random ass Amsterdam hostel. And we go to a
I hope
bar
you checked
there.
for bed bugs.
Oh yeah, like it wasn't bad, but like where things happened was the bar was there and it was like 2 p.m. when we arrived at this thing. And we go to the bar and Darius fucking Johnson, God love him, proceeds to introduce us to the concept of the grenade. And if you're not familiar with what a grenade is, it's when you take this is the Jaeger bomb era, right? Like this is after the Wizard had some, but like Jaeger bombs were in. Is you take a basically like a Jaeger bomb, you have a glass and then you have 2 shot glasses in it at the top, and one of them has Jaeger and the other had like whiskey or something, and you balance these things, and you take the shot of the whiskey, the Jaeger falls into the big glass, and then you down it. We started doing grenades at 2 p.m. and I think the official start of the event was, I don't know, 8 or 9 or whatever. Who cared? We were partying. And it kind of, that's how it started. I remember finding Oilieballen or something or other at some like random like late night Amsterdam like drunk food. I don't really remember too much about what happened because I had a horrific fucking hangover, but we all had to get up at like 6 a.m. and catch the fucking bullet train to Paris, right? So there we are. And we're all I'm just like dead on this fucking thing. But we go to Paris, and of course we have to party in Paris. Now, meanwhile, DJ goes missing because he gets to his hotel room in Paris, and he was a very practiced partier. Like this was me when I was still like earning my stripes. And DJ goes down for the count because he gets to his hotel room, falls asleep in his hotel room in Paris, and
there you go.
Answer the phone, can't be raised at all. I remember we were raging in Paris, and I discovered that you could get steak tartare even at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. So we're running around, and a bunch of our Parisian goons are like showing us, because again, like the funny thing about partying with spaceship nerds is that you always know the cool locals who are your spaceship nerd friends, and you don't have to do the tourist crap. So like we are just running around Paris in this herd of spaceship nerds, and I remember we were like trying to find a fucking bathroom, and we couldn't find a bathroom, and so they were just like, there's pictures of this, of a line.
The Zen's
of
right there.
Goons,
what are you talking about?
A line of goons standing on like a ledge in a street or over a bridge, or I don't know, it was a wall. I was really drunk at the time. Just like 40 goons fucking pissing on a wall in a line in Paris. And then like we were going to some place that was open at 4 a.m. to get steak tartare and like gorging ourselves. And then at some point they were lighting drinks on fire. I think this was at the next bar, and Boat was hitting on Sword Dragon's girlfriend. I didn't really remember. There's a lot of pictures of this. Like this was a good party. So I don't really remember all the things that happened in Amsterdam, but I definitely had a good time, and I definitely had a good time in Paris. And man, you think the drunk shits are bad? Having the drunk shits the next day after you have been eating steak tartare after a 2-day fucking bender. Oh my God, it was disgusting, but it was worth it, and I regret nothing. And that is, the old school, like that was in that era of like Laugris Holland was where FanFest was. Like we rolled hard, like Great War era and Aftermath Eve players. Like we did not fuck around when it came time to partying. So good times.
Tim, this is Brian. Have you ever had steak tartare?
Yeah, hon, I've definitely had steak tartare a few times. As a matter of fact, it wasn't, it's crazy because I had exactly the same trip that our buddy Alex had, but I was going the other direction. We started the bender in Paris, took the bullet train to Amsterdam, and I remember thinking, like, I'm doing this in the wrong order. If you're going to start, if you're like in Amsterdam, you could be at like their version of a TGI Fridays at 1:00 in the afternoon, and there's techno music playing, and it's like way out of control. So it's kind of like I got there and I was already running on fumes. So I would definitely, to someone who would like to relive the footsteps of our glorious leader one day, do it that direction. Land in Amsterdam, get started there, and then run for your life to another safer part of Europe where it's not so crazy.
Dude, partying with the French fucking owns. Like I
love France.
Say, like,
I'll tell you right now. I don't care what anybody says about France in the U.S. That is my favorite country. I love fucking France. It's
man, good times. So I feel better talking about. So yeah, like I don't know if people want to have us tell more stories or something like that. Like we can keep going. I love talking about parties and laughing my ass off. So this is therapeutic for me. I don't know if people want to hear about something that's actually like spaceship related, or whether we want to go our various separate ways. We have gone a little bit over. Whatever. It's a fucking like Fireside.
We got nowhere to go. It's not like there's anything happening.
Yeah, I'm cool to stay here and run my mouth. More stories field. Well, Sikander Cole, like again, I've got to like moderate a lot of my. One of the reasons this is the thing. A lot of people try to fuck with me a lot because of being in charge of Goonswarm and being a space asshole, right? And like nerds are constantly making fun of nerds. And one of the things I just want to we try to do this in Goonswarm a lot. Like basically we have goon meets all the time, not only because they're just fun and they're good for people knowing each other and like helping each other out and all the warm and fuzzy shit. But I started out as a fucking turbo nerd. I'm still a fucking turbo nerd, but like I began as like this super awkward, very stereotypical like 7th grader BattleTech nerd who like never thought he would ever be able to like meet a girl or talk to a girl or anything like that. And I found as I developed and I started partying, I realized that you can be a turbo nerd and also enjoy the finer things in life too. And like go on these fucking love to club ragers and do all these things and also have fun, which is I think actually the entire theme of like, I've never seen it, but like Superbad and like Booksmart. This is like an entire genre of movie of like, you can be nerdy and party and fuck also. Like these are all possibilities.
Superbad is a very good movie, by the way.
Yeah, like one of the things is that like I think that
it's very useful. We need to watch that one, Mark, on Netflix Party.
That's not a good idea. We could, but basically, like one of the reasons why, like, I just sort of like laugh at people when they're like coming at me about like my stupid goatee or shit like that is that like if you have rolled really hard and if you've gone on these crazy ass ragers, like you just don't give a shit when nerds are going to make fun of you because it's like, bitch, you don't know how to party, you don't know how to do any of these things, and you haven't seen the things that I've seen. And so it's fun, and it also builds a lot of resilience, I think, because you're not going to feel like your dick is going to shrink because somebody called your alliance tappy, because you've realized that if you party enough, you realize that your penis does not grow or shrink in length based upon nerds making fun of your goatee or whatever, because you've been around, you've partied, you've seen like DJ Z's trip, like private parties and like crazy ass insane things you can't talk about on a freaking Metashow. And like that is actually, I think, one of the secrets to why I'm good at what I do in terms of like spaceship stuff is that just by wallowing in depravity and debauchery, it means that like it's really hard for me to give a shit when a nerd tries to troll me about a spaceship game.
Now, there's a good question in chat, and I want to ask you guys all of this because this has not happened to me, and I guess I'm happy about it, but I'm not surprised. Has anybody recognized you in real life because of Eve and come up to you and said, "Hey, are you this guy?" That's never happened to me yet. Has that happened to you, Alex?
It's so fucking weird. I mean, so like, it's a good question because it's like one of the weird alienating things about me if we're doing like story time with Uncle Mittens or whatever and I'm running my mouth, is that I am a celebrity in a very specific time and place. Like when I go to FanFest, and I realized the first time somebody tried to ask me for my autograph was before I became like the CEO. But it was in like 2009. It was after disbanding Band of Brothers and that FanFest when I had my goatee and my little silver glasses and whatever, proto mittens. And then I realized that things were nuts. But basically, I wouldn't encounter that. I would be just a normal person in my daily life. But then when I go to Iceland or to Vegas or something, then it would be in like Mittani mode. But then as things progressed, the lines began to blur. And I remember Sion Kumitomo and I were going to E3 in like 2014, 2015 or something. And it's like the day before E3, we're in fucking LA. It has nothing to do with like Eve stuff. We're there for multi-dollar media empire things. And we were looking for a place to eat by our hotel. And there was some fusion sushi restaurant that was really good. So there, Sion and I are hanging out and, planning what we're going to be doing for the next week. And our waiter is like, "Hey, are you the Mittani?" And he was in actually a corporation that a friend of mine was in, and there was this whole like worlds collide, small world shit. So it doesn't happen all the time, but if you're gaming adjacent, right? Like if I go to a place where there's lots of gamer nerds, because I don't know who knows me. That's one of the weird things about it. Like I have no idea who's going to recognize me unless people come up to me and go like, "Hey," or say something. So I just sort of proceed as if I'm like a mostly anonymous, generic white guy nerd or whatever. And it's a mind fuck though. It is a real mind fuck. Like it's like crossing the streams. Like when I found out that like I used to have very separate areas of my life. And then after a while, the walls just broke down because the whole, like, there was just too much stuff about Eve happening and the whole, like, the fucking comic book and then the Fountain War Kickstarter and then just all of the wars and bullshit. It's very strange. Most of the time people don't recognize me, but when they do, it's crazy at events. But anyway, yeah, so it's a whole thing. It's weird.
What about you guys? Has anybody done that? Has it ever happened to you?
I wouldn't call Mittens like a prototypical white guy. You've got like a very strong Benjamin Button thing where you're like aging the wrong direction.
This is the thing that drives, and Mark, you're absolutely 100% correct. This is what drives me fucking nuts. Everybody makes fun of me and calls me grandpa and says I'm the old guy and everything. Mittens is like a year younger than I am. He looks like he's 20 years old and he's 41. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah. We had this conversation.
It drives me crazy.
We're
all the same age.
Right.
Well,
all born within like 6 months of each other.
July 78 here for me. Yeah.
77.
Yeah.
Jin's the baby. He's the little guy. That's it. I am not 56. I'm 42.
I would just say hard partying is really the secret to youth. It's a weird thing actually, is that like Gen X in the United States, particularly in 1978, in the UK, I haven't seen the matching statistics for the US, but I believe the demographics are roughly the same, is that 1978 is one of the single smallest birth generations there are. Like there are basically less people who were born in 1978 than there are in almost any other year in our generation of like Gen X shit. And so I think what that means is that like, it's actually like, I have a bunch of friends that are older than me and I have a bunch of friends that are younger than me, but it's actually not very often that you encounter people who are just like in your cohort because we have such a small cohort. And so I think it's just kind of normal to hang out with people who are like way younger than me and way older than me. And I don't know. Also, I just don't go outside, and that helps with the skincare. I have no idea. It's weird. It's weird. I had a baby face all my life. That's why I had like the goatee thing for a very long time. When I was in my 30s, I looked like I was like 14 unless I had the goatee. And then I finally got old enough that I could get rid of the goatee and not, but I still get carded on a pretty regular basis.
Jesus, I haven't been carded since I was like 22.
Yeah, I get carded constantly, but I'm about the age where you probably should be.
That's true.
Anyway, I do want to say that I have been recognized in public as well, though, specifically when I was in university.
Awesome.
And
That's
also
awesome.
when I was Also, when I was buying a computer for my grandma at PC World,
That's
the
crazy.
guy who was checking us out was an Eve player, and they gave me a discount, and I was like, "Yeah, it's all
There you
going
go. You
together."
finally
That's
got
good.
something out of all this
Finally
bullshit.
got it.
I got a
Yeah.
discount.
I
Now,
have
I'll be honest. I have not had that happen to me yet. I mean, honest, I get recognized more around here for being a politician, being like the local politician guys. Oh, I remember I saw you on TV the other day or something like that. That hasn't
it's only
happened in
because
a
you're
while.
hanging out with boomers who still watch TV.
Right, exactly. But I haven't had anybody come up to me outside of like Eve events saying, "Oh, are you that Eve guy?" No. So that's interesting.
It's a
I have
mind
not had
fuck.
that
When
happen.
the first time it happens, you will remember it because it's so strange.
It's a really surreal moment because it's you're playing Eve. You don't consider it to be something that's actually important until you realize that actual real people. It's not just names on a screen. Except when you go to an Eve meet, like these are actually just people who are living their lives constantly, and like 10,000, 100, maybe probably 100,000 plus people, maybe a million in your case, Mittens, know who you are.
Actually, the fucked up thing is that when I was on the CSM, we found out that at the time, this is all not under NDA anymore, but at the time, like the number of people who had like cycled through Eve as of like 2010, 2011, whenever it was like more than 9 million people had at least tried Eve and played it for a period of time and then like wandered off or something like that. Obviously there has been many more people like that. So like right now at any given time, there's probably between 500,000, 250,000, 500,000 people playing Eve, but there's so many more people that like played it and like follow it kind of like football and like read up on things. And one of the things, sort of another funny story was like, when I started dating my current girlfriend, she was also like the fucking best apocalypse buddy ever. Like she knows how to do all of this crazy MacGyver shit, which has been really handy. Like the Asian grocery store idea that came from her, so credit to her. But like one of her friends found out that, oh, like who's this guy you're seeing? Like, oh, well, never believe it. Wait a second, like he's like basically her girlfriends had known who I was because of reading game stories about the Mittani and were like, what the fuck, you're dating the Mittani? And that was like one of these huge worlds collide moments because, it wasn't something that we had talked about before. Like she knew what I was doing or anything like that. But that was just like one of those things when like your girlfriend's friends who are also women are like going, oh, you're dating the Tani, and they know who he is, and I'm like, what do they think about me? I can't find out. I don't really want to know, but that was fucking weird, but also hilarious and awesome.
Like, see, I've never had anybody do that. Like Eve,
being me is
like
pretty fucking awesome.
The guys I work with will tease me about it. They'll ask, "How is Commander Brisk? How is he doing today?" and stuff like that. And they'll ask me every randomly once in a while about it. But I don't get a lot of random people just saying, "Hey, are you that guy on the Metashow? Are you that guy that plays Eve?" That hasn't happened yet.
Well, you have to basically like piss off a couple 100,000 people, and then they start talking to you. Like the greatest way to like start really making enemies and like also have people notice you is to start like winning space wars. Like because it makes a lot of people really happy and makes a lot of people really, really angry. And yeah, there you go. Anyway,
I got banned. That worked for a little while, but then they realized that was a mistake, and then I'm a nice guy again. So everybody was hating me for like a week. That was
being a douchebag is kind of like a privilege, right? Like I sort of like live my life the way that I want to, which is why it's so awesome and why I do this. But like one of the perks of doing what I do is that like nobody can really call my manager, right? Because I just do what I want, right? But like you actually are in a profession where it's important for you to be nice and kind and credible and reasonable. And I'm just like, look at me, I'm in a red shirt and I'm talking about partying in Amsterdam and do and it's awesome. Like seriously, like as much as I talk about the alienation stuff occasionally, like I wouldn't give it up for the world. I fucking love this shit, which is why I do it all the time and have for like 15 years. I mean, it's badass. Like I'm in a fucking comic book, for God's sakes. Like what the hell? Awesome. I just got bored of World of Warcraft. So there you go. Anyway, me. But that's the thing, is story time with Uncle Mittens. So I'm supposed to talk about myself. So yeah, I don't know.
All right, so I think we're kind of at that point where we're winding down. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out of here? Because we've been going for a good amount of time. Nothing. You have nothing.
I can keep, dude. Nobody I can talk forever. I can literally,
same here.
I can keep talking.
We can keep
forever, if people want. I mean, yeah, Marana is like, please no. So like the entire diplomatic team is basically on deck having to watch to make sure that I don't say anything dumb. Or like, this is why it's important to have a large organization structure, because I'm up here like talking about like, you know, crying in stations and Philly getting mad about Tappy. And our poor diplomats are like, oh God, what the fuck is going to come out of his mouth next?
Well, it could be worse. Your wife could be trolling you in the chat like mine is right now. So there you go.
That is pretty hilarious.
So you're saying that we shouldn't bait you into talking about sensitive political topics right now?
I think that's a great idea. We should do that.
Well, I mean, you know, if you can bait me into something, go nuts.
What do we got? What do we got?
My effort. Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I actually have now been. Oh, it's 420. Hell yeah.
There you go.
I actually think that is going to be, so we want to do this thing on a pretty regular basis. Like, this is not going to be the only like fireside storytime with Uncle Mittens, like, you know, let's let our hair down or spike our hair up. My hair fucking sucks now. Also, this is another problem with my hair.
Yeah, you can't get a haircut, right?
Yeah, part of my unnatural youth is that I have to get my hair done like every fucking 3 weeks because it grows like a goddamn weed. And so like I'm going to end up looking like an Einstein, like Q-tip motherfucker here after another couple of weeks, because I'm not putting any goop in my hair anymore because it's already sticking up enough on its own. And I'm just going to have to like, I don't know, find a way to buzz my hair or something. Who knows? So people want to hear from Daddy Merkelchen. Let's get. Do you want to hear? Hey, Tim Hun, can you? This is Alex. Can you handle more stories, or do you got to save it up for? Because I don't want to. I know that you have to eat only food that your family leaves behind. So we need to take care of Tim Hun here before we make him tell stories, because he's got a lot of stuff to do tonight. So Tim Hun, are you okay?
You've just got me thinking. I'm actually starting to worry. I hope my barber is still alive, like when we emerge from this.
I'm kind of freaking out too, because I love my barber.
I hadn't thought about it until now, but he's like the kind of dude that I feel like washing his hands is not good for him. He's not compatible with things like that. So I don't know. That's kind of, it's a stark relief in my mind right now, just thinking, God, I hope that guy is still available when this hit show comes to an end. But as far as story time, I don't know that I have anything super fantastic to add to the story. It's odd when you're a person. I came from Brave. I wasn't in Tappy. I was a Legacy guy, but in Hero Coalition back in the day. You have to imagine me, like I pulled up onto the shores of Goonswarm in the first month of 2015 and in like the second week of January. And I remember thinking, like, we've missed so much, you know, there's just absolutely no way that anything that's going to happen from here on out is going to be remarkable, because these guys have already forgotten more than we will ever remember, you know. And it's kind of crazy, because now as I sit here and start to think about it, whether it was going up to Madison to be assaulted by Mittens calling me Hun, or like, you know, like some other crazy goon adventure, like one of the Vegases, or going to
all the yacht stuff. You caught all the yacht stuff. You got to see the yacht stuff and the horny white boy lifestyle, and you know.
So even as the Alliance has grown up, or as the EVE community, I guess as a whole, has grown up and gotten a little bit older, there's still oil in that ground, you know. There's a lot to do that remains. So I don't know, it's never too late to get started, you know, to the people that are wondering like about these weird events. And I know the live event stuff is going to be squirrely for another 6 months to a year, at least until some genius figures out something that allows us to say, fuck it, it's over, you know. But that part was probably the part that's been the most rewarding for me, was being able to go to those. I haven't had anyone just like walk up to me in my normal life and ask me who I am, but I did have this one experience that was really, really crazy. In 2015, I had a Fat Bee shirt on in Vegas, and I was getting on to an elevator, and it wasn't 2015, if I'm remembering correctly, that was Planet Hollywood, I think, but somehow we ended up at a different casino. It was when we were down at Fremont Street or something like that. And I got on an elevator, one other dude gets on the elevator, like it's stopped at a floor, this guy gets on, the doors close, the elevator starts moving, he's facing the doors and I'm way in the back of the elevator, and he just starts singing Little Bees without even looking at me, and I was just like, holy shit, what an incredible moment. I couldn't wait to tell somebody, like, you will not believe what just happened to me, because I don't know, it's just the breadth of these organizations is really remarkable, and just how far reaching stuff like, the pop culture song of Goonswarm is.
It's always strange when like people do something that's like kind of reaching out socially, but like they're too scared to commit to it. So like, if the guy like started singing, like turned around and like looked you in the eyes and then started singing, it would be like, hey, I'm going to sing Little Bees. But like not making eye contact and singing Little Bees, like that is actually so. Obviously, Goonstorm's culture is very like we roll hard together. Part of the bonding of the whole Goonstorm thing is like doing this crazy like yacht shit, benders between cities, just madness, insane. And that's where a lot of the real bonding happens. And going to like Vegas and FanFest is such a mind fuck for me, because for me, I mostly roll with goons who troll me constantly, because that's the culture that I have set up, is that I don't want to have a cult of personality, even though I guess I kind of do by accident. But my people are constantly mocking me because I do dumb shit all the time, and it keeps me sort of balanced and stable, that I'm not like sniffing my own farts too much.
That's why we have Marana.
Exactly. And an entire support organization of people to just mock the shit out of me when I deserve it, which is often. But like the fucked up thing in like going to Vegas and to FanFest is like dealing with like, and a lot of these people are perfectly fine, and but there are occasionally these individuals that are like just really fucking weird and come up to me like just random puppies and will be like, here is like one year some guy gave me a fidget spinner and wanted me to take a picture with the, do you remember the fidget spinner guy from Vegas, Tim? Yeah, exactly. Like, and it was cool, but it was just like one of these moments, and like it wasn't like bad. Like I like it when people like give me gifts or like tokens and things like that. That's nice, it's cool. I'm like, hey, thanks, I appreciate it. I'm not gonna be rude about it. But one of the things, like, it's this moment of like mental rupture. Like it just there's a paradigm shift that's happening when you're hanging out with your crew that you're used to like rolling hard with, and somebody that you don't know comes up to you and hands you a fidget spinner, and you're just like, how did my life get this way? Like, what is the appropriate reaction when you're a space emperor and somebody gives you a fidget spinner and you've never held a fidget spinner? This wasn't like, I've never experienced a fidget spinner before. It's just like, here's a fucking fidget spinner. I'm like, what are you supposed to say? I mean, obviously I say thank you, take a picture with the guy and do this sort of nice normal thing. But moments like that are extraordinarily weird, which is awesome, but also strange. And yeah, what the fuck do you say? What do? You say thank you, you take the fidget spinner, but you also wonder how the hell I just got bored of playing World of Warcraft. I was bored of World of Warcraft. I got sick of raiding Molten Core. I named a throwaway Eve character after an old World of Darkness character that I used to play before that, because I was like, whatever, here's a name, the Mittani. And then fast forward 10 years and here's a fidget spinner and somebody wants an autograph and take a photo with you. And yeah,
it definitely is. All right, guys. Well, we are an hour and a half into the show, and this is an hour-long show. So, like Mittani said, like our dear friend Alex said, Fireside Edition. We've made the editorial decision that we don't want to cancel shows anymore. We don't have anything to talk about. Then we'll just do something like this. We'll grab some friends, we'll take our pants off, and we'll just do a fun show. And so that's what we're going to do instead of canceling the show. So you guys you can be rest assured there will be a Metashow every week. Whether we have Eve-related stuff to talk about or not, we'll have fun and we'll have a chance to talk. So I want to thank Merkel Chen and Jintan for joining us today.
And putting up with my bullshit.
Thank you all for watching. I know the show was very long, but I think it was fun. And this was fun. We got to do this again. So anyway, thank you all for joining us. This was the Metashow for Saturday, March 27th, I think. Is that today? I don't know. Something like that.
Time's a blur and a flat circle at the same time.
Like you stay classy, New Week.
And we're rolling the credits. Awesome. Let's make sure that we're not broadcasting our after show chat to everybody.